All right, so this function that we just created has one output, one input. Let's say we want to have a function that has one output and two inputs. So to do that, let's create another function. Let me clear my workspace here. Clear all. All right, and to create another function, again, you got to go in here and start a new script file or M file, and start typing function. I'm going to use the same variable output. I'm going to say that's going to equal to, and then just going to call this function g, and I'm going to have x, y. Again, these naming conventions are arbitrary. You can choose whatever you like. And then I'm going to save this, and then automatically it's going to give me the function name g. Let's go ahead and save that, and you see up here, g's up here, and now it's populated in my window Explorer folder there. Okay, so I can, you want to comment your code as much as possible anytime you have, you're doing a function, a script file, whatever it may be. It's a good habit to comment, very detailed. So this function multiplies x and y, okay? And note here, x and y must be same size. So this is a condition for this function to work. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, we have our function. You note here, you still got some warnings, and the reason is saying, okay, I don't see output defined here. I don't see x defined down here. I don't see y defined here. So that's what we need to do now. So let's just go ahead and say output equals x dot star. We're just going to multiply it y. Okay, and then you always want to suppress your code when you're creating functions. The only time you want to remove the semicolon is when you're trying to debug or make sure that your code is working properly. But especially with functions, you want to suppress them so that you don't get false outputs that you think your code's working, but it's not really working. Okay, so note here, everything turned green. The only thing I gotta do is press save. So if I click on my output, it's highlighted blue, it's defined down here. Click on my X, it's down here. Click on my Y, it's down here. Okay. So essentially what this is going to be doing is, so I'm going to go ahead into my command line, and I'm going to define my input X. No, I don't have to define my input X as the variable X. So whatever I define in my command line or my other script file, this X doesn't have to be the same name as this. It just depends on, so this X and Y and output are independent of whatever I named them in my script file or my command window. So let me give you an example. Let's just call this X1 equals 1:5. Okay, and then it's populating in my workspace. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to say Y1 equals 5:9. I'm just going to suppress the output. Okay, yeah, so we populated our X and Y, and now all I have to do is I can say G. I'm going to say Z, and I'm using Z so I can show you that you don't have to actually name it output. I'm going to say Z1 just for the sake of consistency equals the function G that I just defined, and it's the input going into is going to be X1, the variable I just defined, and Y1, the variable I just defined. Okay, so the point is, what I name this on my command line or a different script file is independent of the way I define it here. What I name this guy is independent of this guy independent of this guy. What is very important is that you call G the way it's defined here. Okay, that's the most important thing. Okay, and then I'm going to press enter. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, press enter, and then I get this output. 5, 12, 21, 32, 45, and essentially what it's doing is multiplying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and these are the outputs element by element because we put the dot operator. Now, thing to note, what if I did not suppress this Y here? That's line 3 here, and I'm going to go ahead and save it. So if I don't do that, and I'm just going to press my up arrow and type enter, so you see what's happening here. The output is going to come out here, so this calculation is going to happen. However, we're thinking that this is the variable we need, but we see output it's inside, it's a local variable inside the function. So I can't use this output because it's not defined in my workspace. I can't use it later on. So this becomes an issue if we don't pay attention to our coding. We might think that we're getting the function to work properly, or we're calling the function properly, and we may not be doing that properly. Okay, so we'll see some examples later on, but just be cognizant, be aware that this is your actual output, what you want to look at. Now I can change my Z1 to output, and now that makes it even more confusing, but be careful. So you want to make sure that you suppress this output, and then I can run this again. I can suppress the output here, and then you double check and look at your variable here. So this is a couple more things to be aware of when you're defining functions. In this case, I have an output, one output, and two inputs, and this is just one way of defining it. And this is how you would call those functions. You can have an array, you can have different, you can have a scalar, a matrix, whatever as your inputs to these functions. And make sure you test them out before you move forward and you follow the formatting for the functions.